What's going on YouTube? This is Amisbro, and in this particular video we are doing yet another anime review for the anime review series. This is episode number 16, and this time we are covering the series Tokyo Ghoul. Now Tokyo Ghoul tells the story of a young man named Ken Kaneki, who, well, he had a bit of a bad time of it. You see, Ken is a college student, and all he wants to do is go ask a girl out on a date. That's all he wants to do. Is there too much to ask about that? No. The young woman is named Rize. Or is it Rize? Anyway. I don't know how you pronounce it officially. The point is, he wanted to ask her out on a date. And he thought, or his friend Hyde rather thought, that was not going to happen because she was too far out of his league. Well, it turns out that she actually did accept his offer for a date, but this is where his troubles begin. Because you see, it turns out that Rize is actually a ghoul. Yes. Because she's a full ghoul, she can actually hide her appearance well to make herself look like she's human, like you and I. There are other people like that, like a young gentleman named Nishiki, and there's also the Fuguchis, Ryoko and Hiname. There's also members of the Anchiku staff, Yoshimura and Yomo Renge, just to name a few. Now, we meet Yomo, and we meet Toka, and we meet Yoshimura early in the series, as they are part of what I like to call the Antiku clan. And they, the Antiku, is just a coffee shop, just for people to go hang out and chill out, no matter if you're human or ghoul. And they reside in the 20th ward, which is more of the pacifist ward of Tokyo at this point. But little do they realize, and little does the viewer realize, that there's a huge war that's getting ready to start. And it initially just starts between the CCG and ghouls anywhere. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're good or evil. They want rid of you. So they would fight you with what is called a Kaneki, which is like a really, I don't know if I want to call it a sword, but it's like a really weird weapon. One of the other main villains in this series is called a Jason. And they're called that because, well, like Jason from Friday the 13th, they wear hockey masks. The one that we meet in this particular season, and I'm saying that because I'm hoping for a second season, his name is, and I'll get that for you here, Yakumo Omori. And he's a big bastard. Big one. Big dude. Like, I don't want to fuck with him. You meet him, but you don't meet him till late in the 12-episode series. And he is fucking brutal. That's all I'm going to tell you. So we have the CCG, we have Antiku, and we have this guy. Do we have any others that will get introduced? Yes. There's one called the Agori Tree. They're another gang, but they're nothing more than a gang of ghouls. And their goal is simply to raise as much hell as humanly possible. They answer to, believe it or not, the brother of Toka. His name is Aeto. And yeah, let's just say he and this Jason dude decide they're going to raise absolute hell, especially when it comes to Ken. And trust me, I may be skipping around, but there's a lot more to this story than you may believe. Actually, the manga just ended not that long ago. It has 143 chapters, believe it or not. And it has a very long story. especially when it comes to one character named Sukiyama rather, who's one of my favorite characters because, check this out, he's voiced by one of my favorite voice actors, legitimately in all of voice acting, Mamoru Mayano, and he is an eccentric ghoul. Believe me, when I say eccentric, this dude can speak like 3 languages. He speaks Japanese, Italian, and French. Okay? He is what they call a gourmet ghoul. Well, because he has very delicate and eccentric tastes when it comes to his meals. He's fixated on one particular meal, and that of course would be Ken Kaneki, sadly enough. And you find out that through the course of the series, especially towards the end, he actually declares him his best friend. That's interesting. Considering we know he really wants to eat him. Now then, let's talk about the animation, let's talk about the story and the plot progression, and let's eventually get to the big question, should you be watching this series? Okay, the story, and let's do the animation first. The animation is actually really, really well done. I love it. It's some of the best out there that you'll see, without question. Then again, I wouldn't expect anything less from a series that is going to be licensed by Funimation. Granted, they didn't do the animation. That task belonged to the studio. Where are we here? Studio Pero. Or Pera, however you want to pronounce it. And they did a phenomenal job with it. You have 12 episodes. So, when you're trying to tell this story, there's going to be things that are changed around or omitted to throw potentially people that have read the manga completely off their game. I think that's sometimes what people who read the manga actually don't like. When something is completely edited, and this is even in the case of, let's say, DMMD, which we'll be getting to on Sunday. When things are edited or changed around in some manner, sometimes people don't like that, so they get all up in arms and they throw a fit about it. Meanwhile, the people who are just watching the anime, they're just chilling out, they're just watching and enjoying it. And that's basically what's going on here. There were things that were probably chopped out or edited out or changed around because you have 12 episodes. So there's going to be things that you want to cover and you have a very short amount of time to do it. Okay? So knowing this, the story progression and the plot progression were fine. Okay? And believe me when I tell you, it gets pretty brutal towards the end. Matter of fact, I'm going to say this now. The fight scenes are some of the best you'll see in anime, I think, but they're also some of the most brutal and the most graphic. Do not watch this series if you have a very weak stomach, because I'm telling you right now, you're going to see things like people just get brutally beat the fuck out of, and it's going to make you cringe. It's going to make your stomach turn, your skin crawl. So that's my warning as far as that goes. I think the plot progression was well done, given what they had. I do think, I'm going to make this one complaint, and I want people to understand why. You go through up to episode, we'll say 10, because episode 9 or 10 was about when Ken was kidnapped, and then you're building up to when the Antiku clan starts to get ready to go rescue him, and one of the plot twists is they had to recruit Shu Sukiyama to go help him. And believe me when I tell you, Nishio and Toka, they didn't want him. They didn't want him helping. Why? Because they fought him in a church when, excuse me, when Nishio had to go rescue his girlfriend. And believe me when I tell you, it's rare that I ever feel sympathy for a character like Nishio, especially when he was on the verge of killing Ken earlier in the series. But the thing was, they did such, again, here we go, they did such a good way of giving you his story and building up the sympathy for him that you switched from hating him to liking him. But you know what? In this case, because he's one of the because he's one of the protagonists, that's a good thing. You want sympathy for a good guy. Why can't the people who write Black Butler understand this? No, seriously. Been through 3 seasons of that, and it drives me absolutely fucking crazy. Anyway. You go, and as you're building up to this rescue mission, obviously Ken's not there, so he's sort of taken out of the picture for a little bit. You do eventually see him again when he's getting tortured by the Jason. So, okay, so we're to believe that this fight, this war, is to go rescue Ken. We're led to believe that they are going to go fight this Jason, or go battle to fight this Jason to rescue him. Now, of course, we all know that Ken eventually, I hate to say the term, gives in, but he finally accepts. So he finally accepts that his ghoul half, and he starts fighting back against this dude who beat the piss out of him for like 2 episodes. Like, legitimately beat the piss out of him. I was getting uncomfortable watching it. And then you get to episode 12, and here's my complaint. Rather than splitting it like they were doing between Ken and the fight between the Agority Tree and the Antiku clan and the CCG, all the focus is on the fight with Ken and the Jason. Now, some people say, well, it's supposed to be like that. Okay, I can accept that. But my whole thing is, I wanted to see the outcome of, essentially, the 3-way fight between the clans, Yes, I wanted to see Ken, accept Rize into him and basically bring out his ghoul side and fight this Jason. I wanted to see that. Maybe if the show had another episode in between, when Ken becomes who he becomes and the fight with the Agority Tree, maybe that could have been worked out. So, okay, I can't really fault them for that, but at the same time, it's like, I wanted to see the outcome of that fight, And we don't really get to see that. What we do get to see is a really well done fight with Ken and the Jason. And I call him that because that's easier to remember for me. So, okay, no issue there. It does get, trust me though, when I say this, it does get graphic as hell to see the way he gets tortured, to see the way that the dude takes the 2 people who, I guess he found out betrayed him, and he kills them. That was brutal, And I should have expected that because the whole series has been, a bloodbath and a half. But nonetheless, this brings us to the big question. Should you be watching this series? Answer, yes. The animation is fine. It's well done by Studio Pero. They did their job and they did it well. The story progression and the plot progression is fine. Like I said, if you gave me an extra episode and you devoted, if you gave me an extra episode between when Ken becomes, when Ken accepts the Rize into him finally and officially wakens up to his ghoul half, and you gave me a conclusion to Agori versus, or Agori, or however you want to pronounce it, versus the CCG versus Antigu, if you gave me that conclusion in between that, I would have been thrilled. But it was fine. Character development, one thing I didn't mention. Ken starts to, gradually, he starts off, freaking out because, oh my god, I'm a half-half. And then, of course, he really starts panicking because, he gets kidnapped by Shu. But he eventually starts, when he goes to Antigu, he starts to really want to learn about the ghouls, and he wants to protect them. He wants to protect them from the CCG. He wants to protect them from any other rival groups. He wants to help them. You get what I'm saying? He becomes the big brother of Hiname. And there were episodes when something happens to Ryoko. God damn, I was ready to start bawling like a baby. When you realize the way that Toka and Ken are taking care of Hiname, it really shows character growth for everybody. And hell, even Tsukiyama, as much as people may not like the character. Yes, is he eccentric? Is he a bit out there? Yes. But he goes from wanting to just outright eat Ken to treating him as his, quote, best friend, and getting a very determined look when he found out that Ken was abducted, and he wasn't going to let the Agori tree, and he wasn't going to let the Jason and Aito have their way with his friend, with his also potential dinner. Believe me when I tell you, he's ready to rip somebody's head off, and he would do it in a heartbeat for Ken. So trust me, that was in 12 episodes. They did well with that. Now then, here's the other thing. Is this going to be a series review, or am I going to have to rename this a season review? For now, it's a series review, but I have a feeling with the way they ended this season, it's going to have a season 2. There better be, because you still have probably close to 100-some chapters left to cover somehow. And by God, I think it's going to happen. Should you be watching this series? Without question. And you would be a fool if you don't watch it, I think. So, and by the way, that's not a marginal recommendation. That's a full-fledged recommendation. So that makes... Look at the dramatic switch that we've had between last week and this week. Last week we had 2 series which I either gave a marginal pass to or I didn't recommend at all. This week we've pretty much given recommendations, virtually solid recommendations, to 2 out of the 3. Now the big question, and that's going to come Sunday night. Where does Dramatical Murder go? Is it going to be a clean sweep for this week? Or will we have another wah-wah at the end? You'll be surprised. But until then, my friends, I will see you Sunday night when we do Dramatical Murder. And then we get ready with a clean slate to do Vampire Night. And I am thrilled because we're going to be doing the subbed version. So, until then, my friends, I hope you have a great a great Friday, and I will see you on Sunday night. Take care, friends.